Good morning, everyone. My name is Mrs. Jones, and I will be your teacher for today's live lesson. I am substituting for Miss Kritzer. Don't worry, she'll be back next week. But I am so excited to be here with you all today as we start talking about writing text-based informative or expository introduction paragraphs. Now, I know last week Miss Kritzer went over 2 different plans with you. She went over completing an ITC outline for both the lungs text set and the Rainforest text set. So let's take just a moment and review those plans to refresh our minds about what we're going to be writing our essays about. Going to go ahead and switch to our document camera so that you all can see my plan as you go over yours. Perfect. Now, I know Ms. Kritzer mentioned on Tuesday how important it is that we have a nice organized place to keep all of our work. So it would be super helpful if every student had a writing folder where they could keep their text sets that we'll be using during these live lessons, their planning outlines, and then also their writing paper. For today's lesson, all you're going to need is your previously completed ITC outline and a blank piece of paper. If you don't have your previously completed outline, if this is the first time you're joining us, that's perfectly okay. We'll get you caught up in just a moment. So the first text set that we looked at was the human body one. It's all about the human lungs, about the human brain. And Ms. Kritzer reviewed with you the most important parts from this text set. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to read all of these sources in their entirety. If you haven't, it would be a great idea following this lesson to go ahead and read through all of these different articles. Now, when you all were planning, you created an ITC outline. ITC is an acronym. It's how we plan for essays where we are informing our reader, teaching them, or explaining to them something that we have read about. The I stands for introduction. The T's are our topics, the 3 big things we want to write a lot about. So topic 1, topic 2, and topic 3. And then C stands for conclusion. So on your ITC outline, we identified the central idea, which is the main idea of your whole essay, to be the human body. This is what the prompt told us to write about. So we wrote the human body next to I and also next to C. After reviewing the text set and looking for topics where there's a lot of information, Mrs. Kritzer and you all identified that there is a great deal of information about the lungs, the brain, and how important it is to protect these important organs in our body. So our T1 topic is lungs, T2 topic is brain, and T3 topic is protect. Now, in your text set, you learned that it is very helpful to box and label the information in the articles that pertains to what you're going to write about in each particular paragraph. So for example, T1 is all about the lungs. So we find information about the lungs in paragraph 1, 2, and 3. So we put a box all around those 3 paragraphs and we labeled them T1. Now, you also discussed how important it is to fill these middle paragraphs with specific content-rich information, which means we just don't want to talk about lungs for 8 to 10 different sentences. We want to be a little more specific than that. So Ms. Kritzer guided you all to identify 2 subtopics. We call those our A's and our B's. Now, these subtopics are just details or examples of your main topic. So 2 details that you all found is how important and how the lungs work to breathe in and how the lungs work to breathe out. In the text set, there's information about breathing in paragraph 2. So you went ahead and labeled paragraph 2A. There's information about breathing out in paragraph 3. So you went ahead and labeled breathing out paragraph 3B. This is going to help you so much down the road when it's time to write those middle paragraphs. In the future, when you're writing your T1 paragraph all about the lungs, you know that you will come here and paragraph 1 will give you some overview information. Paragraph 2 will give you information for your A subtopic, and paragraph 3 will give you information for your B subtopic. So this strategy of putting boxes and labels on items and information in your text set is called boxing and labeling. And this is something that you always want to do when you're planning for a text-based essay. Now, the second main topic that you're going to write about is about the brain. Specifically, two parts of the brain called the cerebrum and the cerebellum, and then the brainstem. And you went ahead and you boxed and labeled this information as well. So if we go to the passage titled The Human Brain, you will see in paragraph 6, 7, and 8, there's a lot of information about the brain. So we boxed all three of those passages and we labeled them T2. Now your A subtopic, again, was the cerebrum and the cerebellum. So we have labeled those two pieces of information A. This is where you're going to find evidence and information about your A subtopic. Paragraph 8 is where they discuss the brainstem. So here's where you're going to find information about your B subtopic. Finally, we come to T3, our third main topic, which is about how important it is to protect these organs in our body, how to protect the lungs and the brain. The A subtopic is going to be details and examples of how we protect the lungs. And your B subtopic are going to be details and examples about how we protect the brain. So in the text set, we identified paragraph 4 as having a lot of information about protecting the lungs, which is your B subtopic. So we labeled that paragraph T3, B. And then you identified paragraph number 9 as having a lot of information about protecting the brain. Oh, excuse me. So this was labeled T3B. And I just found a mistake that I had made. We said that T3A is lungs, right? Well, look what I had done in my plan, or excuse me, on my paper, I had labeled lungs B. Such a silly mistake. It's not my B subtopic, it's my A subtopic. So I had made a mistake. I'm so glad I went back and checked my work so I could find that mistake and fix it. All writers make mistakes. So it's always a great idea to go back and review your work as you go to just find any of those simple mistakes that you can quickly correct. So this is how you planned for your expository or informative prompt on Tuesday and created your ITC outline. Now, as Miss Kritzer explained to you, each part of your planning outline is going to be developed into its own paragraph. So this is the information that you will write about in the introduction. This is the information that you will write about in your first body paragraph. This is what you will write about in your second body paragraph. This is what you will write about in your third body paragraph. And finally, and I'm sure you probably have already guessed it, this is the information you will write about. I get a better marker there. That one's a little dried out. In your conclusion. So this ITC outline is going to be developed into a 5-paragraph essay. Paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I know that might seem like a very long, very complicated essay, and you might be sitting there saying, oh, I don't think I can do that. That seems quite overwhelming, but I promise you, you can. We are going to break down writing a 5-paragraph essay into one step at a time. And today we're going to start with the very first paragraph, and that is the introduction. So today we will be writing the introduction paragraph for this human body text set. Everyone is going to need a piece of paper. This can be any blank piece of paper you have, notebook paper, a notebook, anything of that nature will work just fine. Now, I am going to be writing the introduction paragraph for this human body text set, but I would love for you all to be following along with me. So as I write the paragraph, you can copy what I write and we can do it together. In just a few moments, I'm going to ask you all to write your Rainforest introduction paragraph. So your job right now is to be looking, learning, listening, and following along. Let's learn how to write introduction paragraph together right now. So in a few moments, you can attempt to do it on your own. All right, so the very first thing that we need to do when we are writing an introduction is we have to come up with a hook. Have you ever heard of that word before, hook? A hook, and I'm going to write it here on the side so you can remember this term, this vocabulary word. A hook is the very first sentence of an essay. The purpose of a hook is to get the audience's attention. to get them excited and interested in your essay, and to help create in them a feeling of wanting to read more, of wanting to learn more. If you know anything about fishing, you probably heard of a fishing hook before. And what do we use a fishing hook for when you go fishing? To catch a fish, right? Well, when you are a writer, you use a hook in writing to catch a reader. We want to interest them and get their attention. Now, you can write hooks in lots of different ways. You can write a very interesting rhetorical question. You could write a surprising statement or a strong statement. You could just write down an interesting fact or maybe a statistic from the article. Any sentence that is about what you're writing about, what the entire essay is about, your central idea, and is going to get the audience's attention is a great hook. So I was thinking of starting with an interesting sentence. So I'm going to do 2 finger spaces to clearly indent, because this is the beginning of a paragraph. So we always want to indent. And my hook is going to be, even as I sit and write this essay, my organs are working to keep me alive. And I think it is fascinating. Now I'm writing in Sharpie so that it's easy for you all to see, which makes my letters a little bit fatter than they normally would be. So I just wanted to mention that if it looks as though my writing is a little bit big, but I wanted to make sure y'all could read it clearly. So my hook is, even as I sit and write this essay, my organs are working to keep me alive, and I think it is fascinating. So I made a statement about the central idea of my essay, which is the human body. And again, my hook is designed to get my readers' attention and make them want to read the rest of my essay. Now, the next part of an introduction is going to be our 3-topic sentence. Now, your 3-topic sentence is just how it sounds. It is where you tell your reader the 3 main topics that you will discuss throughout your essay. So this would be your T1, your T2, and your T3 topic. So in my 3-topic sentence, I'm going to mention lungs, brain, and how important it is to protect them. I am not going to be mentioning my A's and B's in my introduction. I want you to think of your A's and B's, which again are your details or your examples, as a secret. Okay, we're going to save these for the middle of our essay, and we're going to surprise our reader with all of this interesting information. In our introduction, we're just giving them a little peek into what the essay is going to be about, right? So we are only going to be mentioning the T1, T2, and T3 topics. We are not going to be talking about our A's and B's. So I'm going to mention my T1, 2, and 3 topics in the same order that they will be discussed in my essay. Meaning, in my essay, I'm going to first write about my lungs, then the brain, then how important it is to protect them. So in my introduction, I will first list lungs, then brain, then protect, so that I am listing my topics in my introduction in the same order I will write about them in my essay. So I'm going to say, learning about the brain and lungs. And how they should be protected. Is very important. All right, so let's reread our 3-topic sentence and make sure that we listed our 3 topics in the same order they're going to be written about in our essay. So my 3 topic sentences, learning about the brain and lungs and how they should be protected is very important. So T1 is lungs. Oh, look at this. I wrote brain first. And then brain should be second, but I wrote lung second. Protected is third, and that is correct. So look at this mistake I just made. I wrote about the topics in the wrong order. That's going to be so confusing for my reader. Let me go back and fix that. So I should say learning about the lungs and smaller for you. Brain and how they should be protected is very important. Okay, so boys and girls, this was so important what we just did. We went back and reread our sentence and we found a mistake. Now, this happens all the time in writing. It's what I like to call the fast brain mistake. What I mean by that is your brain can think a lot faster than your hand can write. So oftentimes when you're writing something for the first time, you're going to make a mistake. You might forget a word or forget a punctuation mark or just forget an ending to a word. In some cases, you're going to write things backwards. That's okay. All writers make mistakes. But what's super important is that we always go back and we reread what we wrote and we fix those mistakes before we go much further. So now that we have written our 3 topic sentence, we're ready to finish up this introduction. We are going to write a closing sentence. Now, this closing sentence is where you just write one general sentence about the central idea of your whole essay, what the whole essay is about. So again, what's our whole essay about? The human body, right? So I'm going to write one sentence about the human body. I'm going to say the body is an amazing machine. And that will be my closing sentence. All right, now let's take a moment. And before we finish this introduction, let's reread it. Let's see if we found any other simple mistakes or fast brain mistakes. Even as I sit and write this essay, my organs are working to keep me alive. And I think it is fascinating. Learning about the lungs and brain and how they should be protected is very important. The body is an amazing machine. Excellent. So I've indented my paragraph. I've started every sentence with a capital letter. I have used punctuation marks at the end of all of my sentences. I've fixed a couple of clarity mistakes I made, and now this introduction paragraph is complete. Before we go to the Rainforest text set and you have an opportunity to write your own introduction, let's go through and color code this introduction paragraph so you can clearly see the structure. So as we mentioned, the very first sentence of an introduction is the hook. I am going to go and underline my hook now in pink so you can clearly see it. Now, the second part of your introduction paragraph are your 3 topics. I'm going to go and underline my 3 topic sentence now. Learning about the lungs and brain and how they should be protected is very important. And then finally, in our introduction, we want a closing sentence where we just say something in general about our central idea. And I have written, the body is an amazing machine. So the structure of an introduction paragraph that we learned today is a 3-part introduction that has a hook, a 3-topic sentence, and a closing. And you can see the 3 parts of the introduction clearly highlighted here in this example. So what do you think? Is this something you can do? I think it is. All right. Everybody grab another blank piece of paper, please. And you will need your Rainforest ITC outline that we created on Tuesday and your Rainforest text set. So go ahead and gather your materials. All right, so as a quick review, we're not going to go through the whole passage for the sake of time, but as a quick review, when you planned on Tuesday with Ms. Kritzer, you identified your central idea, what your whole essay is going to be about, as the rainforest. So you wrote that next to I and C. the 3 topics that you selected to write about in your essay, the big topics that you had a lot of information about, were tropical rainforests, temperate rainforests, and how important it is to protect and save them. For each of these 3 main topics, you also came up with A's and B's, details and examples. Now, in our introduction paragraph, are we going to be mentioning these details and examples? No, that's right. These are a surprise, right? We're going to save them for later. In our introduction paragraph, we will be stating our central idea, and we will be talking about our 3 big topics. All right, so let's get our blank paper, and let's start writing our introduction. Now, the first sentence that we're going to need is a hook. So I want you on your own now to think of an interesting way to begin your essay. This could be a question, it could be a statement about the topic, it could be a fact, it could be a statistic. Go ahead and think of a hook now. Did you think of one? Okay, I think I'm going to start my introduction paragraph with a question. So if you would like to start yours with a question, awesome. If you want to use a different type of hook, that's fine too. I'm going to start with a question that is based upon what I've read. And I remember reading in this text set some really interesting information about how the rainforest affects the weather all over the world and how the rainforests affect the water cycle all over the world. And I just thought it was absolutely amazing that rainforests could have such an effect on these worldwide patterns. So I'm going to make up a question about that information. I'm going to do 2 finger spaces, and then I'm going to clearly indent. My question is, did you know rainforests have a huge effect on the world's weather and water cycles? Weather and water cycle. Okay, so I wrote a question hook to begin my introduction. You may have written a statement, you may have written a question, you might have written down a fact or statistic. Any of those options are fine. Now, the next part of our introduction that we're going to write, do you remember what the second part is? I bet you do. It's your 3-topic sentence. So here is where we are going to list the 3 topics that we will discuss in our essay. And those are tropical rainforest, temperate rainforest, and how important it is to protect and save them. I'm going to challenge you to now, all on your own, write a 3-topic sentence where you state those 3 topics that we will write about. You go ahead and write your sentence while I write mine, and then we'll share in just a few moments. All right, have you finished your 3-topic sentence? It's okay if you're not all the way done, but if you are, let's go ahead and share. So my 3-topic sentence says there are 2 types of rainforest, tropical rainforest and temperate rainforest, and it is important we save both. So here I mentioned T1, tropical, T2, temperate, and T3, protect and save. Now that brings us to our last part of our introduction, which is our closing sentence. Remember, this is where we will just write one sentence about our central idea, which is rainforests. You go ahead and write your closing while I write mine. All right, everybody, let's share our closing sentences. So mine is, it is crucial we protect these ecosystems so they do not disappear. Now, I'm sure your closing sentence sounds different than mine, and that is a beautiful thing. As a quick review, let's go ahead and color code our introduction paragraph. So we began our introduction with a hook. In my example, I began with a question hook, and I'm going to highlight that in pink. Then the second part of our introduction is a 3-topic sentence. This is where we state the T1, T2, and T3 topics, what we are going to write about in our middle paragraphs. And then we end our introduction paragraph with a closing statement. I'm going to highlight that in green. And this is where we are simply saying something about our central idea, the main idea of our whole essay. So these are the 3 parts of an introduction paragraph. Y'all did a great job today of paying attention and following along. If you need a few moments to finish your rainforest paragraph, and I'm sure your teachers will give you that time at the conclusion of this lesson. Thank you so much for attending, and I'll see you next time.